Jill. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks, Grant. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good for what is it, a Thursday today?
Thursday, end of the week.
Yeah, it's a rainy one here in Sydney. We've had a bit of rain for the last couple of days. It's a bit dreary outside, so it's a good day to be inside doing podcasting.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's start with who you are and why you're a landscape photographer.
Okay. I'm Gill Dayton. My handle is TassieApplespice.
Hmm.
Started up photography maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was a police officer for 32 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and what photography has been for me has been just the best form of therapy, getting out into nature and being able to switch the mind off and just living in the moment of where I am and appreciating what's around me.
Yeah, fantastic. And
Yeah.
so is it a full-time thing now? Is that what you do, or are you doing
It
other things as well?
No, it is full time now. When I left the police service, I left under ill health with PTSD. I've got that pretty chronic. And so I just picked up the camera one day. It took me 6 months to actually learn how to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the mind doesn't function like it used to before the PTSD. And it's become a full-time gig. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned it's something that you using as a form of therapy. How do you use it as a form of therapy, and what does it do for you?
Yeah, like I was saying, you live in the moment, and I think there's nothing better than being in nature. So part of the PTSD is that I have insomnia, quite antisocial, don't like being around groups of people, and so I find that going out into nature and just being on my own, it just calms and settles the mind. There's nothing more magical than seeing a great sunrise or a fantastic sunset, and I don't know, it just really reconnects you again. It centers you. And I find that when I'm having my bad days, which there are quite a few, if I jump in the car and go off out into one of the national parks or somewhere nice and quiet, I come back feeling much more relaxed and centered.
Yeah.
It's been crucial in my treatment.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you mentioned having insomnia. I guess that's an advantage when you want to go and do astro, isn't it?
It is. Everyone makes comments. Oh, do you ever sleep? But how lucky am I that if I have insomnia, I've always got Astrophotography, which is probably one of my favorite. Sitting out in the dark and living in Tasmania, we're just so blessed with the amount of auroras that we have
Yeah, well, you've
happening.
been having some fantastic ones the last
Yeah.
couple of days.
Yeah, so it's fantastic for my insomnia. And some of the places that we can get to here in Tassie, like up the centre, there's just no light pollution anywhere. Just
Yeah.
perfect. Just got to rug up and keep extra warm because it can get quite chilly. But yeah, it's been fantastic to get out of a nighttime. And I'm self-taught, so I'm learning as I go along.
Yeah,
And
right.
yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the creative motivation, was it always about the therapy first, or was it about creating art first? And I guess which came first, and how did the artistic side of things start to happen for you?
Gee, I don't know actually out of those two. I've always had a creative side. Cooking was my thing, and I used to be a baker and make a
Okay.
lot of things. But since with the PTSD, and again, another symptom of it is concentration and being able to concentrate with following recipes and just cooking in general. I couldn't do it anymore, so I needed another outlet. So went and bought my first Sony camera, and it sat in its box for 6 months before I actually thought I'm going to tackle to learn how to use it. Once I picked it up and started using it, it became an everyday therapy. And it was just somewhere else I could express my artistic side.
Yeah.
After being with the police for so long and you're so regimented in the way that you think, control, behave, it's so nice to be able to express that, use that other side of your brain and express that
Hmm.
artistic side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have any goals in your photography beyond using it as a form of therapy, or is it that what it's about?
Yeah, that's mainly what it's about. To keep the enjoyment there, I'm not really focusing too much on turning it into a business. If
Okay.
that, if something further should transpire, that's great. But for me, the most important part is that I enjoy it and that it gives me, it's just part of the healing process. So I don't want to change it from something that is really emotionally valuable into
Mm.
something that's going to become a stressful business or
Yeah.
situation like that. So it's just keeping it as it is now.
Nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned the personal expression. How do you bring your own style and vision to what you're doing? You've definitely got a style that I can identify. I'm interested in how you see it and how you see that's developed since you started 4 years ago.
Yeah, there's certainly been some changes, hopefully some good changes since I first started. I like to try and keep what I see there as real as I can, but it's trying to capture the feeling. That's what I really hope that I can do with my photography. Sometimes with some of the things in nature, when there's been an extraordinary sunrise or sunset, it makes me quite emotional. I don't know if that's quite normal for all photographers or not,
Oh
but
no, I think that's
yeah,
yeah.
it's so humbling to think that through the dark days and with the demons that I'm still here, but not just still here, but getting to see this beauty. It's very rewarding. So I don't really know how to describe my style other than I wing it and just hope that I can capture the feeling of what I'm feeling at the time that I'm there.
Yeah. The winging it seems to be working.
Yeah. Oh, look, so many of my photography friends have all the apps where we can track the stars and we can see where the Milky Way is going to be. And I've got no idea. I just turn up to a location, have a look around and think, okay, what can we do here? Let's hope something can
Nice.
turn up.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're not all about the planning and the details
No,
of
no,
where it's all happening. Yeah.
no, it's very instinctive. I just get this feeling that, oh, I haven't been to the west coast of Tassie for a while. Let's go
Nice.
there.
Yeah.
And just hope that something will turn up while I'm there.
Fantastic. Fantastic. In terms of your work, do you look at ways of challenging yourself and extending and expanding your knowledge of what you're doing? How have you gone about that in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this is a bit embarrassing, but like with my photography,
Just no one else is listening.
all my photos are single shots. I haven't done panoramas. I haven't done
Okay.
stacking.
Wow.
I haven't tried macro. There's lots of things that I still need to, or not need to, but want to try and learn and expand.
Hmm.
Again, as I say, with the PTSD, learning things takes a long time. I
Yeah.
can't sit and read. I can't watch tutorials. I find that my mind will wander too easy. So the
Yep.
best way for me to learn is to actually be out in the field and practice. And I am hoping to hook up with some other photographers at some stage and just learn about the things, simple things like the panoramas and
Sure.
how to stack. So there's lots for me to learn. As I say, it's all self-taught, but at a very slow pace.
Yeah. Yeah. And what does success look like for you in your photography?
Success would be people having some sort of emotional connection with the photo. That's pretty much it for me. If people can come back and say to me that photo invoked some sort of feeling, then that is success for me. As I say, I'm not looking at the business side of it at the moment, but I do have ideas planning in the back of my head about
Mm.
working with other first responders that are experiencing the PTSD and using artistic form as a way to express and engage that other side of your brain, and just hopefully that some other people will find the healing benefits with it as well.
I
Yeah.
know that there are other people that are doing similar sorts of things to that, where
Yeah.
running photography as a therapy groups and taking people out into the wilderness or nature areas and just getting people engaged with that sort of thing. And I honestly think it'd be a marvelous venture to get into.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Even if it's just one person that finds
Yeah,
it, then that's a big benefit. It is quite amazing when you like listening to psychiatrists and psychologists about the benefits that art and being able to express has for you. But I think it's more so getting out in nature.
yeah, just being outdoors and
Yeah.
in nature makes
Yeah.
a difference. Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. In terms of with your work, how do you mentioned wanting to try and keep the scenes as natural. How do you balance that desire to create something that's really natural with what's happening with social media and the amazing image that you need to create to get engagement there.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. I think you've got to stick to your own course, stick what's true to you. You do see a lot on social media. Take the auroras, for instance. You do see a lot of highly saturated, maybe, photos.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so seems to love it. They lap it up. They love those bright, bold colours. But I prefer to just stick to what feels natural for me.
What do you think, or where do you think you see your photography going in the next couple of years? Is it something that you're just going to keep chugging along the way that you are, or is it, you mentioned getting into doing something like workshops, for example? Is that
Yeah,
something that,
uh,
is on the cards?
it's something that I would certainly consider. I've had a lot of photos printed up. Actually, Tas Police have put a lot of my photos up in the welfare office. The Tasmania Police Association's also filled their office with a lot of photos. And
Nice.
it is something that I would like to do with any of the members that might be interested in it. Maybe one-on-one. I'm not very good with too many people, but
Yeah, sure.
again, being self-taught, yeah, it would be more about the experience of getting out in nature than anything more technical. Yeah.
I got to be honest, a workshop doesn't have to be about the technical. Yes, okay, if somebody's brand new to photography, you've got to
Yep.
help them, take them through where's the shutter button at the very least.
Yeah.
Even if it's to get on auto, hit the shutter. But beyond getting them off auto, the experiential sort of and the creative side of working a composition and understanding what makes a good composition versus what doesn't is really
Yeah.
something that would make a massive difference to a lot of photographers, regardless of what level they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I even had to learn how to use my tripod.
We
It's some
all
very
do.
tricky tripods.
Yeah, we all do. We all do.
Yeah.
Do you think where you live has influenced how you shoot?
Think so.
It obviously influences what you shoot because if you're shooting around your local area, you're going to shoot those things that are there.
Yeah.
In what way has it influenced how you shoot?
Tasmania, it's not far to get out into the wilderness from the city centre. Like I live near Hobart. It within an hour I can be in a rainforest. I can be down on a beach that nobody else will be there that day. There are
Yeah,
so many places in Tasmania, and I avoid the mainstream places. A lot of the local photographers here have some amazing photos of the Hobart waterfront.
yeah,
When we have Mona on, can't do the crowd. So for me, my location and photography locations are very often out on back roads, lesser travelled areas. Thank goodness I've got myself some max tracks because the amount of times that I've actually gotten myself stuck, the last time I had to get a tractor to pull me out. But I do, I take myself off exploring on all these back roads and unused tracks and go and photograph places a little bit more remote. I don't
yeah,
do so much the bush walking. We have some great local photographers that do a lot of hikes and
yeah.
take some fantastic photos, but I tend to be not too far from my car.
Yeah. So we
Go
won't find
camping.
you up in the middle of the Tarkine then.
No,
You won't find many people up in the middle of the Tarkine.
no, I don't think so.
I guess I'm interested. Do you have a favourite spot and somewhere that just keeps calling you back? Something you've got either
Oh,
unfinished business with, or you just go, yeah, I really like this. I'm going to keep coming there.
probably the West Coast. The west
Yeah,
of Tasmania is so wild. That it's not a big population, and it's probably more mountainous over there as well. But the
yeah,
west coast of Tassie has a lot to offer, and still got so many places to explore over there. That's probably my favourite. Yeah.
okay. What's your most memorable experience?
Gee, wish I'd been warned about this one. I have memory issues too. Most memorable experience. Probably the Aurora
Mm.
on the 11th of May this year when we had the huge.
Yeah, I was seeing it in Queensland, and
Yeah, that was the
it's
first time I'd actually photographed the core, and that
nice.
was just amazing. I, I think everywhere there were people obviously everywhere, and all you
Yeah,
could hear was, "Oh my God." It was just the most incredible experience. And I've heard that you can hear sound when there's a really strong aurora, that you can hear a sound.
okay.
Didn't quite hear that, but it was probably one of the most magical experiences, a once in a lifetime opportunity, I
Yeah.
think, to have experienced an aurora of that magnitude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We were a bit unlucky here in Sydney. It was 100% cloud cover,
Oh
so just didn't get to
no.
see them.
Oh,
Unless you
that's
were prepared to drive up or down the coast or out west somewhere.
oh, that's so disappointing.
Uh, it happened for a lot of people, and there was a lot of photos
Yes.
of it because I was also thinking, I don't really want to add to the load.
Yeah, yeah.
What about horror stories? Have you had anything dramatic happen when you're out in the bush on your own?
No, I've been lucky. Like I do see a lot of wildlife, see a lot of tiger snakes where I go, have a good, healthy respect for them. I've been very fortunate that I don't provoke them and hopefully they won't be an issue for me. But I haven't really had any other horror stories other than I do get lost easy. I have a terrible sense of direction. It doesn't matter what maps or compasses I have, but
Yeah.
no horror stories. No, it's all
Bit lucky.
been positive. Yeah, I have been lucky. I've lost, I've left a tripod in the Southwest National Park because I
Oh,
forgot
wow.
it. But
Did you get
nothing,
it back or you just,
no. By the time I got home and realized it was like a 3 hour drive, and I just
yeah,
thought, oh, that's gone.
fair enough.
But no, I haven't had any horror stories.
What's the practice of photography taught you about nature?
What's the practice?
Yeah, of photography taught you about nature.
Oh, it has taught me about nature. Oh, gee, Grant, I've got a mental blank here. What's it
I
taught
can
me?
ask it a different way. I can say, what have you learned about the world through photography?
I think it's about the connection, reconnecting, really appreciating just the simple things in life, being out in nature and seeing the sky, the ocean,
Mm,
reconnects and gives you a huge appreciation for how lucky we are. So
yeah,
that's probably what it's taught me the most. But I do love coming across all the native animals that we have.
yeah.
Something that's so special. And I must come across like a weirdo when I drive past paddocks of cows or sheep or whatever, and the window down and mooing or barring at them as you're driving past, saying g'day. I did. I just recently went to the South Island, New Zealand, and had the window down in the car and barring at all the paddocks of sheep. Yeah,
Yeah.
but coming across, we have the white wallabies that you only get down at Bruny Island. Probably one of the most magnificent natural encounters I had was with a wedge-tail eagle. It
Okay.
allowed me to get up really close to it, and that was quite an experience. They're
So I was actually sitting on something, was it?
yeah, it was sitting up on a tree branch and I was able to get right underneath and it didn't move off. And that
Wow.
was really quite special. They're such magnificent birds.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
What's your process? Sorry, what's your processing like? You want to keep it natural, so are you doing minimal processing? You spending hours to make it look natural? What are you doing?
So I use Lightroom.
Sure.
And yeah, of course, I do touch ups with getting the lighting right if it's just lighting up the shadows. Try
Hmm.
and keep the color as much natural as it. I do love long exposures. That's something I really enjoy doing. So basically, just a tidy up of the scene more than anything. I try not spend too long on editing. I'd rather be out there doing it than actually sitting in editing. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah,
You straight into editing when you get back, or you do you leave things for a while?
no, I try and get into it as much as I can. So when I'm posting content, it's fairly fresh. I
Okay.
like to keep it as fresh as I can. But I even find the editing is also just another really good mindfulness activity to do. It's
Mm.
just something else that you're concentrating on the photo. And yeah, that's another good pastime just to calm down and settle.
You said you go to some unusual places. What's the most unusual place you've been to?
Oh, what's the most unusual? Probably around the west coast of Tasmania again.
Yeah.
We have a lot of dams over there, a lot of
Mhm.
lakes and dams. Actually, no, I'm going to say the centre of Tassie in Lyweenie.
Okay.
Lyweenie is probably, it's in the heartland of Tasmania. It's the coldest recorded place in Australia. And I found myself up there last month and it had dropped down to minus 13 degrees. And we had a really big frost. There wasn't any snow, but there was a lot of frost. Everything was covered in a hoarfrost. That landscape up there is really harsh. It's quite barren. And when you look at it in summertime when there's no snow, I wouldn't say it's the most attractive landscape because it is quite harsh. But as soon as you get snow or ice on there, it is just beautiful. That's probably one of the more unusual places.
Do you often bump into people that you know out in the field?
No, I see people, I run. I see cars at a location, then I think, no, I'll go and find somewhere else. But there are the odd times that you do bump into a photographer that you might be there and then someone else turns up. And
Yeah,
it's actually really lovely when you do have those encounters. But most of the time, I just like to be in the zone on my own.
fair enough. Fair.
Yeah.
What about printing? Do you print any of your work?
No, I don't. I actually use a local printer in Hobart, and I find them really great to work with. There's someone who I started printing with back 4 years ago. We've got a really good relationship, and they do my printing and framing. It does make it a much more expensive exercise, but adding the printing in for me, just being a hobby photographer, is not something I'm wanting to add at this stage. I'm quite happy just to send it off and get them to do all that work for me.
Yeah, fair enough. And you've obviously mentioned the relationship you've got. How important is that relationship in getting the results that you want on print?
Yeah, really good. It's good that you can just have really open, frank discussions, and they know what I would like, and they do a fantastic job. So
Oh,
it is really important that you are on the same page when you have your work printed. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Have you ever hit a creative block? And if so, how have you dealt with that?
Haven't, not so much a creative block, but sometimes social media blocks. Sometimes find that I use Instagram and Facebook, and sometimes you just feel like you need to have a little bit of a spell, bit of a break. But I've
Yeah.
never had a creative block as yet.
Okay.
I always find it personally challenging that even if it's a crappy day, the weather's not looking great or the light's not great, I still like to try and test myself and to get some sort of photo out of where I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of social media, what part does that play in you sharing your work and the interactions that you're having? Have you? I personally find it a double-edged sword, and I'm not a big fan of Meta or Twitter or any of the others. They're all as bad as one another in a lot of ways. But in terms of getting your work out there, they're a necessary part of that process in this day and age. Where does social media play a part for you in your photography?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a double-edged sword. I only use Insta and Facebook. I don't think I could handle any other social media sites because I find myself like I have a really wonderful group of followers, but for every time you post something up and they leave a comment, I feel that it's really important to engage with your followers. And so you're commenting a lot. And sometimes I can sit down and it'll take me an hour just to
Right. Okay.
respond to all the comments.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've got to be in the right headspace for that. You just don't feel like that you want to be on social media. But it's also good that you get the work out. It's wonderful to hear people are enjoying your work. You still do get the criticism from a few people. And then just recently, I also another Instagram account is using all the other photographers' intellectual property without their permission and without acknowledging it. So that's the other side of social media, is that your work can actually be used inappropriately.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a little bit frustrating. Trying to deal with Instagram was just a nightmare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not very helpful.
No, they make it very difficult, and yet all the good people are getting shut down over nothing. So it's
Yeah.
quite ironic. But social media, it's great for promoting and putting your work out there. But like you say, I do find sometimes I'm spending too much time on it and
Yeah.
just need to have a little bit of a breather every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to actually talk to you a little bit about that incident because I saw it in your stories
Yeah.
few days ago about somebody that nicked one of yours and was putting it out there on their own. Talk to me a little bit about the interaction that you had both with the individual. You had interactions with somebody related to that individual in some way, but also
Yeah.
the stuff that went on with Instagram, because I think a lot of people who probably haven't experienced that would like to know when something like that happens to them, how they can deal with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, a couple of local photographers had said to me, "Look, this is just part and parcel of what happens when you put your work on there."
Definitely.
But I actually got alerted by another photographer from the mainland who just said, "Hey, Jill, just thought I'd let you know that this
Yeah.
guy has taken one of your photos and he's
Mm.
claiming that all the photos on his site belong to him. All photos taken by me is what he
Yeah.
has in his bio." So I jumped on and had a look, and it was one of the Aurora photos. It's no particular big deal, but then again, it also is. It's your hard work. And when
Well,
I
it's
look,
your copyright. If nothing
yeah,
else, and if somebody's claiming it, then They are technically breaking a
Oh,
law,
for
but
sure.
it's
So I
it,
had a
not a
look
nice
through.
feeling.
No, it's not. So I had a look through his page, and he had something like, at that time, 500 and something thousand followers,
Wow. Okay.
which I suspect had probably bought. But nearly every single photo on there was taken by somebody else. That was his own work, but he was claiming that it was his own. And he's taking these photos, adjusting them, like oversaturating, cropping out the watermarks, and then posting and then pretending that they're his.
Yeah.
So I left a couple of messages with him. He didn't respond back to me,
Okay.
that he didn't have permission to use it, and that I wanted him to remove my photo, and that it was stolen intellectual property.
At that point, did you report it?
Yes, I reported it to
Yeah.
Instagram, and even that was a nightmare in itself.
Let's say just click this report here. You've got to go through about 5 or 6 clicks to get to the form where you
Yes,
report it.
absolutely. And then they wanted all the URL addresses for the specific photos. I didn't quite have that. And so, anyhow, I ended up leaving another comment, and it was his partner who responded back.
Mm.
And she responded back with along the lines of, you put your photos up on social media, we're going to use them. We never said that it wasn't your photo, and this is what we're going to do. We use these photos. This is how
Totally.
we do it. And it wasn't up until then that I got really cranky. That's when I started to get annoyed because of the
Yeah.
attitude that they had the right to take other people's work. I've since having a little bit of an email conversation with Instagram. It hasn't been resolved as yet. As far as I know, he still has all the stolen photos on his site. The ones that the photographers that I recognised, I've alerted them as well. But all I can do really at the moment is just block him. I know that he's still up and active, and just
Yeah.
hope he'll do its thing.
If he's got 500,000 followers, bought or otherwise, then he's
Yeah,
going to be in line for some kind of remuneration from.
that's exactly right. And that's what I think this is all about for him.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a means of making money.
Yeah. While the rest of us taking our work, we're trying to publish ourselves and work our way to that point. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see what Instagram comes up with, because the other option is to actually engage a lawyer and serve a letter on him to demand that he takes down.
Breach of copyright letters.
Yeah.
I know that there are services out there that you can actually hire somebody effectively to comb the internet looking for stuff that's been stolen from your work, from your portfolio, and then they'll take steps then to either get takedown orders, etc. I don't
Yeah.
know what it costs, but I know that
Yeah.
there's services out there that do that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I wasn't aware of that, but that's good that there is something out there that you can use. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, might be worth having a look. I know Matt Payne on his podcast, he's talked about it a few times, so it might be worthwhile reaching out to him. He knows he uses those sorts of services
Yeah,
himself.
absolutely.
Might be worth talking to him. I'm not using it myself because I'm sitting there going, they're going to nick the stuff and give up.
Yeah, no, that was what a couple of
Because it costs
photographers
more to
said to
chase
me.
than it does than you're going to get back out of it, I think. But
Yeah, I agree with that.
that said, I think you've done the right thing have you blocked him yet or
Yeah, I have. I've blocked him, and I sent another email off to Instagram yesterday just saying what's happening with this. Haven't heard back yet.
yeah, they're notoriously poor at
They are.
particularly and even I know I've seen some correspondence with somebody else that was posting about their experience. They've become meta verified, so they've got their paid for blue tick, and they're having problems going through similar sorts of issues.
Oh,
And
really?
after
Yeah.
paying Meta to say, "Hey, I'm this person, and this is definitely my work,"
Wow. Because Meta's not cheap.
and
No.
it's one of the reasons why I won't buy a blue tick off
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah, me neither.
Anyway, where do you see photography in society? We just talked about some of the bad things. What are some of the good things about photography in society that you've come across?
I think for me, it's just capturing beautiful locations or beautiful settings. Quite a few followers that I've had have mentioned that elderly ones, they can't get out to these locations, or they
Oh,
have a
good.
health issue, and often will say, thank you for shooting at that location. I will never get there or won't be able to see that. I think it's just something to show everyone in society just how much beauty is out there and preserving it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
the conservation message and the recording of what's happening now for future generations, etc., particularly with things like glaciers and whatever, with the retreat of those, I can see a time where there won't be any because
Yeah.
I don't see anyone doing anything about global warming. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit scary, isn't it?
yeah,
Uh,
just a bit.
And I guess the other thing that I like to photograph is old buildings throughout Tasmania. On some of these back roads, find some old houses and cottages. And from the time I started 4 years ago till current, just
Mm.
seeing how much more in disrepair they've gotten really actually saddens me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's also one of the things that puzzles me about is like the heritage orders, which might be on buildings where they are starting to fall into disrepair.
Yeah.
Nobody's spending any money to do it, but to actually do it is made more expensive because of the heritage orders on them. Going,
Yep. Yep.
we've got a heritage order and we're just going to watch it rot.
Yes, which is so sad to see that bit of history go. But
Absolutely.
that also brings me to thinking about jetties as well. What about
Oh,
all the gorgeous timber jetties? And they're all getting replaced with those hard plastic green things that your tripod keeps getting stuck in. You miss the character of that old timber. It's a shame that they have to do that, but I understand why. But from a photography
yeah.
point of view, being very selfish here, I wish
From
they'd kept
a
the
jetty
old ones.
usage point of view, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. But from a photography perspective, it's not much fun.
No, that's right.
What do you see as being the biggest challenge facing photographers right now? Okay.
Just I think social media really, like we said before earlier in the discussion, double sword, that it's great to get your work out there, but once it's out there, you can't control it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a little bit scary as a photographer, not being able to control where your work ends up sometimes. You can have certain things in place to try and counteract that, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of clever people out there that can just take your work.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you see as the future of photography?
I don't know. I really am not sure. I don't think it'll be something that will ever diminish. I think that photography is always going to be something that people will enjoy. Where it goes, I don't know. You see some of the astro shots these days with some incredible detail and lenses that they've got. It does make you wonder where it will go. But yeah, I can't really think of what to say to that one, Grant.
That's okay. No problem. What's your favorite thing about being a photographer?
Getting out in nature. Yeah, just jumping in the car, putting on some good music. I do like country tunes and heading off somewhere and just the excitement of being out in nature. Love it. To me, there's nothing more special than because I've got a rooftop tent, go and find a quiet little place, usually by a lake or a river, and doing the sunset and sunrise there. Just magic.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say country music, Australian country or
Probably more American.
okay,
Yeah, Chris Stapleton. His voice is like honey to me.
fair enough. And what about the worst thing about photography? What's your least favorite thing?
Ooh, FOMO.
Really? Yeah.
Sitting at home, cooking dinner for the kids, and you look outside and you see, oh my God, look at that light. I
Yeah.
hate missing out. Yeah, it actually does stress me, and I've had to teach myself there'll be another day, there'll be another sunrise, there'll be another sunset, but it has taken a little bit to get to that point because when something is happening outside, I want to be out there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Who doesn't?
exactly.
What do you do when you're not out shooting? What do you like to do?
Probably a lot of landscaping. Yeah. Yeah. I used to
Uh,
gym regularly, but now it's just all more bushwalking.
yeah. Yeah. What's the best and or worst piece of advice anyone's given you?
The best advice would be there are no right or wrongs with photography. Just get out and practice. Practice. And I'm just trying to think if I've had any worse advice. I don't think so. I
Okay.
think most of it's been instructional or helpful. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Who else should I be talking to on the podcast? There are other photographers that you think I need to be talking to.
Okay, my favourite photographer in Tasmania, she is amazing and very passionate about nature, is Joy Kachina. Her work is outstanding.
Yep.
she's only slowly growing her base, but oh wow, her work is just amazing for me. I just love her style and her passion.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yep.
Oh, thank you for that. I've got one more question, and it's a question that I've been trying to get to the bottom of since beginning the podcast 3 years ago. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Yes, that shouldn't even be a question. That's a yes.
For some people, it's a hard no. So
Oh no, pineapple with some jalapenos. Yes, thank you.
brilliant. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me today, Gill. It's been wonderful getting to know you a little bit better. Where can people find your work?
Yep, on Instagram or Facebook under TassieApplespice. My daughter said it sounds like a stripper's name, but anyhow, but that's where I am, just on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, Gill.
Thanks so much, Grant. Really appreciate that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com along with prints and photography gear. I'm also selling my 2025 calendars. You can buy them on my website. And you can also find my work on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.